Hey everyone, how rich is this? To have this Chrystia Freeland running around now? That's the thing with the federal liberals and their constant push for identity politics and playing this game of collective division, right? So they pit everyone into these little subcategories and groups, and then they stoke the flames of division. And they use their media mouthpieces, especially those in the CBC, to help stir up and stoke those flames of division. Then when they see, once they've stirred up those flames of division and got people running to their tribes and pitting themselves against each other, because like I say, they're just responding to what their thought leaders, their opinion makers are putting out there as far as the propaganda and the information. So now that they're responding in any way, and I mean, look at how subdued it is, as if Canada is just full of white nationalists and white supremacists, right? As if we're under some threat here in Canada. Like, come on. I mean, if you actually live in this country, you know that's an absolute bullshit statement. But hey, once again, you got the federal liberals out there espousing this kind of rhetoric, and the media constantly giving the bullhorn and the platform to do so, and then using, some of their experts or their panelists to align with this kind of political propaganda. Well, look what's happened. Now you have, I guess, a substantial, or at least a portion of the Canadian population that actually believes this bullshit, even though they probably can't see it with their own eyes because, white nationalism or no, there's no brown shirts and black shirts running around as far as I know, well, other than the Antifa groups, right? I mean, we've seen there's definitely some real world examples of how violent these people can be. But once again, these are these far leftists. These are these collectivists. Now, in Canada, there are some nationalists, and a lot of them probably are white because Canada is a predominantly white nation, right? Whether you like that or not, it is a predominantly Christian nation with a lot of white people that come from a lot of ancestors from Europe, which were, once again, white people. So the sheer fact that there's a lot of white people in Canada that are nationalists, and that's the other thing, they've been taught through the education, or should I say the indoctrination system in this country, since the time they were knee-high to a grasshopper. Yeah, I know, an old expression. But they've been taught to think that, if you're Canadian, you're supposed to be proud, stand on guard for thee, and put your hand on your heart and recite the national anthem, and care about the flag and the maple leaf. So the Canadians have been taught, like I say, since they were little kids, to be good little nationalists. And yeah, they're white. A lot of them are. Not all, but yes, there's a lot of white ones that were taught from very early ages to be all about nationalism and about Canadian identity by those who were their thought leaders, their opinion makers, their educators, or their rulers or leaders. And now you got someone like Chrystia Freeland saying, oh, well, yeah, too bad that you were raised to think in that manner. Now I'm going to finger wag at you and say, oh, you're a terrible person for repeating and regurgitating everything that's been jammed in your head since you were a little child. And I mean, Chrystia Freeland, like really, first of all, yeah, she looks pretty white to me, right? And she is a representation of the Canadian government, the federal Canadian government. So she's white, and Canada is a nation, so very much, and she's a representation of the nation of Canada, so very much a white nationalist. And like I say, I don't get into this kind of stuff, that's why I haven't brought this up before, but other people, I'm sure you realize this as well, but apparently, I don't know if it was her father or grandfather, but someone in her family line was very much about National Socialism and was supposedly a Nazi himself. And I mean, Chrystia Freeland, I believe, what is her history or heritage is what, Ukrainian or something? A lot of collectivism, a lot of socialists and communists over there. I'm sure a lot of people were probably very much white nationalists or socialists, right? And what's a white nationalist socialist? Because I'm sure, actually, if you ask Chrystia Freeland, well, I mean, I already know because she works for government in Canada. Canada's very much all about forced income and wealth redistribution, the socialist model, right? So she's white. She's nationalist because she's a representation of a national government, the federal government, and she loves their socialism. She loves forced income and wealth redistribution. So she's a white nationalist socialist. So actually, she is a direct representation of everything that she's trying to point out. So, like I say, these people, they're projecting. The only difference is they want to take that nationalist sentiment as far as being national socialists, they want to take that to the global stage. The communist types, right? The socialists, in reality, the biggest difference between national socialists and communists is one is more about spreading that all around the world, where the national socialists, the Nazis per se, were all about keeping it confined within the borders of their particular country or their particular state. Chrystia Freeland and the federal liberals, as we see, as we know, as we recognize, it's an observable reality. They're all about taking that globalism. They're global socialism, global communism, global collectivism. And what it is they're just pissed off that there's a whole lot of Canadians, like I say, that have been indoctrinated into the faith of National Socialism or national identity, they're like, well, shit, you should get on board and support us now that we want to take this global. But there's a lot of Canadians that are still, like I say, especially ones that have been taught to think about everything about their family or their tribe. And you're not going to beat that out of people. Sorry, that's not going to happen. So you're basically finger wagging at people that have in-group preference and suggesting that, what, there's some kind of outliers or some kind of a threat. Well, if that's the case, then every state around the world, and I'll agree in that aspect, in that regard. But like I say, the rest of the world are going to still continue to be states. And you're still going to have all these states fighting and warring with other states. So until we've eliminated even the very threat of statism, yeah, you're never going to get to the point where we're getting back to the fundamentals in regards to respecting individual rights, freedoms, and liberty. Because actually, you know, the U.S. predominantly, but even the U.K. and Canada, for the most part, at least tried to break free. We were the ones, think about it, Canada, U.S., the Western allies, we were the ones that fought against collectivists in World War I and World War II. Or not we, I didn't. Like I say, I won't take credit for something I didn't personally do, but yeah, a lot of forefathers, a lot of people that come before me fought against collectivism. Now the countries, like I say, now Canada, that fought against collectivism, now has political leaders that are telling you now you should join the collective and stand in defense of collectivism, or at least their brand of collectivism. Like I say, I reject all forms entirely, national or global. I prefer to treat people as individuals. And in reality, that's the only way we can truly hold each other to account and personally responsible. Headline of the Toronto Sun. Editorial, Chrystia Freeland's partisan G7 ploy. April 24th, 2019. It was troubling enough to learn that the Liberals were willing to revise a public safety terror report to win support for Sikh voters. That's certainly what it looked like the other week when the phrase Sikh extremism was removed from a report at the 11th hour, just before Prime Minister Justin Trudeau attended popular and vote-rich Sikh Holy Day celebrations in British Columbia. It was alarming to think that something as nonpartisan as an intelligence report could be revised for seemingly partisan reasons. Former BC Premier Ujjal Dosanjh sounded off in the Sun that it was a case of extreme pandering. Now we have another example of the Liberals adjusting national security priorities for what may prove to be solely partisan reasons. This time they're doing it on an international scale. It was recently revealed by the Canadian press that Foreign Affairs Minister Chrystia Freeland attempted to coerce her counterparts at the G7 to send out a joint communique that claimed white supremacy at home and abroad posed a major global threat. The other countries were reluctant to go along with it. There is no doubt that white supremacist sentiment is a dangerous scourge that should be denounced by our politicians. But there are no credible intelligence assessments that suggest it is a global phenomenon comparable in scale and threat level to the one we face from radical Islamist terror. It is still an issue to keep an eye on, and hopefully our intelligence agencies are doing just that. No Canadian wants a repeat of the Quebec mosque massacre. Why, though, is Freeland torquing the threat? What is the point of trying to pressure other countries on the issue? Perhaps it's all for domestic partisan gain. It would be sad if true, but we've seen in recent weeks various attempts by the Liberals to link Conservative leader Andrew Scheer to the broader issue of white supremacy and neo-Nazis. It's deeply cynical politics, but the Liberals clearly feel that if they can't beat Scheer on policy, they have to go after the person. They need to back away from this troubling game. Whether it's Sikh extremism or white supremacy, don't play politics with security matters. Anyways, I'll post a link to this article in the description of the video below. But I mean, come on. Really? White nationalism or white social... Well, first of all, the fact that now with the federal Liberals have bullied and pressured Facebook to basically make it so that white nationalism is the same as white supremacy, which is not the same, as I've already said, and I'm sure I've already covered in a few past videos. But white nationalism is just, you're white. Your skin is white, so... Like, why the hell do you have to point out someone's skin color? I don't know, because, like I say, these are people that are basically treating people or perceiving people based nothing on their skin color. These are the true races. But even the sheer fact that if a person's white and they're nationalists, so they stand in defense of their country, like I say, to point that out or to suggest in some way that is, you know, what that's terrible now, well then, let's be universal. Like, if we're going to be consistent in our morality and our ethics, then let's say if there's such thing as, you know, it's terrible to be a white nationalist, then why isn't it bad to be, if you're a Mexican, to be a Mexican nationalist, right? Or if you're a Pakistani to be a Pakistani nationalist, or if you're Saudi Arabia and you're a Saudi nationalist, or if you're Japanese that stands in defense of your nation. That's the thing. Look at the variances, look at the differences. To just use this broad brush and paint people just because their skin color happens to be white, right? And suggest that if you're nationalist anyway, that you're now a terrible person. Like I say, this is top-down collectivism. These are people that know they're on the wrong side of history as in regards to the kind of shit they espouse, and they have nothing to offer you. You know damn well if they had anything to offer, they would have offered it already. They have nothing. They have no ideas. They have nothing except insults, derision, and hatred. That's all they have to offer. That's all the liberals, that's all collectivists ever have to offer, is to pit you against everyone else, because collectivism seeks to divide us into groups. Individualism destroys their ability to do so, because if you understand what individualism represents, it means we perceive each other as individuals, and we deal with each other and respect each other for individuals and for being sovereign beings. But once again, collectivists, those who want to represent collectivism, and today globalism is the kind of collectivism people like Chrystia Freeland or Trudeau's out there espousing or promoting. Well, yeah, like I say, especially if you're a national social, even collectivists such as nationalists or national socialists. What Christina and Trudeau's out there saying, no, we want to take that brand global, and how dare you stick to just want to keep it inside the confines of your country. They want to promote global collectivism, whereas someone like myself, a libertarian, yeah, I reject any kind of collectivism, whether it's from the right or the left. And in reality, our only true defense against collectivists, like I say, whether they want to come or perceive themselves as being on the right or the left politically, the only thing we have to challenge and oppose them is the promotion of individualism. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.